Today's episode of You Ask, I Answer was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Digital Now conference in Denver, Colorado in November 2023. The session title was, appropriately, You Ask, I Answer Live, Generative AI Q&A. Enjoy.
Yes, this gentleman here and then you.
Thank you. Do you know a tool that can help create sentiment, that can determine consensus and sentiment around issues? For example, return to office and trying to determine, well, one, that's an issue that our staff are thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
Two, they feel this about it. My thought is, around Connect data. Highlighted community. We have all that information, what people are posting in our organization, and I'd like to be able to determine what our members are talking about and are concerned about before they even know themselves.
Yeah, all the language models can do that very, very easily. So there's two ways of handling it. You could just do an aggregate. So for something like Claude, you would load, assuming that you've de-identified it, you've taken out personally identifying information, you would write a prompt along the lines of, here's however many hundreds of responses. I want you to do an aggregate scoring of sentiment, minus 10 to plus 10, and then give me a roundup. Or secondarily, if you want precision, you would take that data set and you would write a prompt just to solve for sentiment. You would say to a language model, your task is to identify sentiment of this passage, and then you wrap some code around that and process the data set one response at a time and build a table of the sentiment scores. And then you can perform, load that in Excel, and you can say on average the sentiment was this, and if you have other data, then you can do quantitative stuff. I would personally lean towards the latter, but I also code a lot, so I would be comfortable with that outcome. For the not as fancy version, let me see if I have one in here that I don't have anything that isn't customer data. But I would say I would take a good selection of maybe 500 responses sampled, put it in a text file, feed it to Claude, and say, give me percentages of sentiment, positive, negative, neutral, et cetera, and then identify the top 10 topics within this conversation cluster, and that it will do that. Mm-hmm. Yes.
This is very specific to ChatGPT-4, since what I tend to use, we call her Gertrude. She's super fiery and easy to train. I have a photo if you want to see it. Anyway, in training it, we've kind of gotten into a habit of having several different chats going. So I have one that's trained to sound like my boss, so because I do a lot of ghostwriting for him. So I'll put it in there and say, now make this sound like him, and I've fed it things. So I've got my Chris chat, go a mini chat over here, and then up here, I have something about particular type of education offering that we have, and one's for our conference. Is that in maintaining brand consistency and teaching it about our brand and our association? It's not going to span through each of those individual chats, I don't think. But is there a better way to do that instead of just having all of these disparate chats going on, or should we be building all in one stream? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I get what you're saying. What you'll run into is you'll run into context window issues.
That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah, you'll start running into drift where it forgets stuff. So what I would suggest doing there is what is called neural style transfer, and essentially it is to build a prompt. Let's see if I have a neural style transfer prompt handy. This is. I should probably sort this. There we go. Let's see. Neural style transfer. So I have here, it says, you will act as a literary expert. You're an expert in style transfer and neural style transfer writing. Your first task is to read the following text and learn the author's writing style. Read the text, then describe the author's writing style in a bullet point format appropriate for use in a large language model prompt. Use a second person imperative tone of voice and style. So if let's take a recent email. Let's take this one here. I'll copy that. Go back into my style prompts. I'll paste this in here. And I'm going to copy that whole chunk. Let's do this. ChatGPT looks like it's having a bad day. So we'll just paste this in here into Claude. So this is taking my CEO's writing style And now it is creating essentially a second-person imperative, which is a writing prompt, right? So now you would say, you might do 10 or 15 or 20 pieces of content that your CEO or your boss writes in one big chunk, because Claude can handle lots of large documents, and say, write me a writing style for this. And the next time you go to use this, you would say, go back to my writing prompt here. You will write with the following style. You paste your bullet point list in, and now it's going to replicate that writing style without you having to remind it all the time. It's a great way to condense down that style into specific commands. So here, use an opening hook to draw the reader in. Establish credibility by mentioning your experience and expertise. Make your point clearly and directly. Don't dance around the main message. Invite feedback and input from the reader. That's all my CEO style. That's how she writes.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you want to know when new videos are available, hit the bell button to be notified as soon as new content is live.